Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
Another meeting request lands in your inbox. Will this one end on time or run over, you wonder? Though deep down, you know the answer. But there just might be a better way, and you might actually look forward to having meetings. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. One thing we can never get back is our time. And during the work week, how much of our time is spent in pointless meetings that drag on forever? Well, Donna McGeorge is revolutionising the dreaded meeting in her book, The 25-Minute Meeting, Half the Time, Double the Impact. It's brimming with no-nonsense, practical tips on making your meetings purposeful and ridding them of time-wasting habits. Donna shares some of that advice in a moment. But first, Heather Dawson asks her why we hate meetings so much.
We hate them because they're poorly run, there's no agendas, we don't know why we're there, and it's just a waste of time pretty much all round.
But we can't do away with them, can we?
Not at all. In fact, we need meetings. We just need them to be better, and we need them. I'm always really surprised at how little training goes into meetings, given that we spend so much time in them. But yeah, we have to have them, which would be just great if we could get them better.
Well, most meetings tend to go much longer than they need to. So why is that?
Often, I think, because people haven't really thought about the purpose of the meeting. So people talk a lot about we need agendas at meetings, and I actually think purpose trumps agenda. That if I'm really clear on the reason that I'm there, so answering the question, at the end of this meeting, it would be great if. And so if I know what the answer to that is, my outcome for the meeting, then I'm able to run a better meeting. So what happens is we don't have a purpose, we don't have an agenda, we may have the wrong people there, so we don't have all the answers we need, or someone may hijack the meeting. And so that's why they tend to, if meetings are going longer than they need to, it's because, they've gone off track in some way.
So what are some of the other bad meeting habits that we fall into, do you think?
Well, the biggest one is punctuality. And I don't know whether it's because I was just raised by someone who was in the military that I'm totally about punctuality. But what I've noticed in a lot of the work that I do is when I go into organisations, that they'll say that, meetings start typically anything up to 10 minutes late most times. And that means that then that meeting runs late, and so then the next meeting goes late, and then it's just a knock-on effect. So I'd say punctuality is one. Preparedness or lack thereof. Because we're in back-to-back meetings all day, we're running from one to the other, we then have the situation where I don't have time to stop and think about the next meeting I'm going to. So I turn up unprepared, and we have to repeat things and all of that. And then, of course, what I call presence, the impact of bringing technology in. So people come to the meeting and then they spend all the time on their phone or their laptop and not being present in the meeting.
Now, Donna, you advocate a 25-minute meeting, not a 20-minute meeting or a 30-minute meeting. Why 25 minutes?
I know, it sounds like a really specific number, I know. Actually, I'm riding on the coattails of the very smart Francesco Cirillo that wrote a book years ago called The Pomodoro Method. And he did all the study and all the work around what's the maximum amount of time you can focus on a piece of work. And he found 25 minutes was the perfect number. So I then started looking at, I wonder what would happen if we did 25-minute meetings. So first of all, it's the period of time in which we can focus really well on one thing. Secondly, and this comes from my time working in corporates of people running from one meeting to the next, just to have 5 minutes. If I have to do back-to-back meetings, and I don't encourage this, I don't encourage back-to-back 25-minute meetings, but if you did have them, at least you've got 5 minutes to get a drink of water, collect your thoughts, go to the bathroom if you need to. So it gives a bit of a gap in between.
So, 25-minute meeting, where do we start to prepare ourselves for that?
Sure. The easiest thing is just to decide that you're going to do it. I decided that quite a while back. I thought, from now on I'm just going to do 25-minute meetings, and it was surprising how quickly I could do that and still have the pleasantries around working with other people. So it wasn't like I would walk into a meeting and say, right, let's get cracking straight away. I still had a chance to say, hi, how are you going? How was your weekend? We'd get into the business of the meeting, and then we'd be done in 25 minutes. And it became a bit of a kind of a game for me. How many times can I make this happen?
How should those invited to a meeting participate, Donna? Should everybody have a specific role?
Well, yes. I think everyone needs to know why they're there. And so I talk about specific roles. You know, you can have roles. Who's the chairperson? Is there a facilitator? Is there a note taker, a timekeeper? Those kind of fairly traditional roles. But even down to you knowing why you were invited. And so the question I always encourage people to ask themselves when they're invited to a meeting, or if you are inviting others, is how will they give and or get value? And so if they come to this meeting, what value are they going to give? Why am I getting them there? Because I need information from them. Or how will they get value? I'm going to give them something that will help them with their work. So constantly be thinking about how are the participants going to give and get value.
Do you advocate a specific type of structure to the meeting?
Look, I do and I don't. So my favourite structure for all meetings is the scan, focus, act model, which says that we scan by first going around the table and getting a level set of where we're all at on whatever the topic at hand is. And out of that, there'll be themes or patterns that will emerge. So they're the focus areas that we would talk about. And then the act is the actions. And so if we're being very specific, for a 25-minute meeting, you'd probably spend about 12 minutes in scanning and then about 8 minutes in focus and then about 5 minutes in act.
Should you time the meeting?
I think you should. I reckon that's part of the fun of it. So Francesco Cirillo, the reason he called his method the Pomodoro method is because he had a kitchen timer that was in the shape of a Pomodoro tomato. And he would set it for 25 minutes. And so he would put his effort in and then the timer would go off. I reckon why not? And I've actually seen it work really well in meetings where we say, for the scan part, we're going to go around the table 1 minute each and we're actually going to put a timer on. And so everyone knows that they've got 1 minute to do their briefing or their report out.
You've referred to this, one of the biggest obstacles for successful meetings is punctuality. Yep. Donna, you're a punctual person, but how do you encourage everybody else to be punctual too?
I think let's be overt about it. I think sometimes punctuality, there's a bit of a face-saving thing. Someone comes in and they kind of apologetically say, I'm sorry, and everyone just goes, oh, yeah, it's fine. Well, I reckon we need to make it not fine. Let's let people know that we want people to be on time. So, one extreme is we lock the door and we don't let people in. That's pretty extreme. The other is we just start to make it clear and make consequences of it. And so if you're late, you don't get to contribute to the decision perhaps, or make it playful. If you're late, next time you shout everyone a coffee. I also read a really interesting article that said, have things start at really obscure times. So instead of a meeting on the hour or the half hour, like at 10 o'clock or 10:30, for example, let's start it at 10:17. And that obscure number kind of sticks in people's mind. It creates a bit of a game around, let's all show up and start the meeting at 10:17. So why not?
Should we actually ban laptops and phones from meetings?
Look, I think they have their place. It requires a bit of discipline to say, look, I'm going to bring my laptop in because I take notes for the meeting or I need to refer to something. I think that's perfectly legitimate. Where the discipline is required is to then, while you're there, not checking your email and being distracted. So the idea of a 25-minute meeting is 25 minutes is a short enough period of time that the world should be able to go on without needing you on your email or a phone call or a text. That social media will continue. You can check it afterwards. The world will be fine for that 25 minutes. And so if there's sufficient discipline that people are not being distracted, yep, why not bring your phones and laptops in? But if it's one of the reasons why your meetings are wasteful, then I would say let's ban it.
Okay. And finally, when the 25 minutes is up, after that meeting is finished, is there anything left to do?
Look, there shouldn't be. I like the idea of trying to do one thing at a time and having there be a sense of completion at the end of a meeting. So the meeting time is done. There's still work to be done afterwards, and that's what the meeting should be doing, is generating stuff that helps us with our work. But I think what's really important, and a lot of people complain that at the end of a meeting there don't seem to be clear actions about what's going to happen next. And so I think it's why it's really important for the last 3 to 5 minutes of any meeting, we stop and say, right, what are we going to do? Who's going to do it? By when? And I'm a big fan because I don't think people deliberately lie. And so sometimes people will say, Heather, you said you were going to do this at the last meeting, and Heather says, well, I don't remember it that way. So you're not lying, we just remember things differently. So I love the idea of capturing it on a whiteboard or a flip chart or in someone's notebook and photographing what we've agreed and sending that out. And that way we don't have that risk of, that's not what I meant kind of stuff.
And so then the meeting's not a waste of time.
Correct.
That was speaker and author Donna McGeorge. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow at BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.